Today we're going to talk about better days ahead. And we're on day 16 in Unstuck by Kimberly Jones. So you can get that book hardcover or Kindle or on Audible. Okay. So let me read this verse to you. Psalm 27:13. Yet I am confident I will see the Lord's goodness while I am here in the land of the living. You know, if you've watched some of my other videos in this series, you've heard me talk about loss and some loss that I personally have experienced in the last almost 2 years now. And it's one of the reasons why for a good part of that time I wasn't making videos, but I was living my life, okay, and working and all that. And there was a lot to do. And so in spite of the loss, I have to take, at some point, I have to start moving forward and doing what I'm supposed to do, whatever I'm called to do, my purpose is. You know, I talk about that a lot. God has a plan and a purpose for our lives. And so I have to make sure I'm getting back to my purpose. That's all part of the long-term moving forward healing process. And with that type, it could be that you're going through divorce right now, or you're facing that. It could be that a family member has dementia and you're dealing with that, or Alzheimer's, or some other form of loss of the mental abilities. It could be that you're dealing with health issues yourself or somebody in your family. We all have things that we're dealing with, right? And then now you're really interested in the legal field and you want to get into that. And that's really, and it's not just people who are looking to get into the legal field that are here on my channel. It's also long-term paralegals that watch the videos, you know, especially some of the videos if they want to change into a different area, move into a different area of law, and they've been in one for quite a while. It can be scary to make that move. But in spite of the loss of loved ones in my life, I have a choice to make. And I always feel that it can be a test of my faith as to what I do with what has happened. You know, and I'll tell you that the book of Job, Job, it looks like the word job, but it's Job. The book of Job in the Bible is put in there for a reason. There are no coincidences or mistakes. And I'll talk a little bit about him. He was a man who was extremely wealthy on all levels. He had the wonderful family. He had 10 children. He had a wife and 10 children. He had wealth, meaning he had cattle and sheep and whatever constituted wealth back then. He was a wealthy man. And the Lord allowed him to be tested. He allowed his faith to be tested. And if you want me to explain why God does this, I can't explain that for every person. I just know that when you walk through the fire, you're either going to fall apart or you're going to come back stronger. And that is the choice. That is the choice. And so after the losses personally for me, I will be stronger and my faith isn't lost. But everything was taken from Job. And it was helpful for me to read that Job survived even though all this happened to him. I read that book many, many years ago and was like, wow. You know, he went through all of that and he came out where no, he did not die from all that loss, but he didn't lose his faith. Yes, he questioned God. And people around him, it's really interesting because let's say a lot of them were not helpful. And you may have people in your life, and this is why I tell you, don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to people who um, are not going to be the ones who lift you up. You know, that's, and it doesn't matter if it's regarding loss or it's regarding getting into the legal field and they don't support you. You know, understand that when you go through the fire, like you get into the legal field and you do achieve your dream, you know, that what you're being pulled to, people around you won't, some of them won't be happy because they're not following their own life's path, and they're not overcoming these obstacles that you did. And there's jealousy there and envy. And that will cause people to act like they do. When people see you go through the loss, they sometimes wonder, how are you doing that? Well, it's only because of my faith. And what's that mean? It means that I know God is right alongside me. And I believe in him. And I believe that his son died for me and rose again. And I believe he loves me as his child. And so while I don't have my earthly father here, I look to God the Father as my father. You know, like that's my father. So while I experienced loss on earth, I know where I'm going, and I know he'll bring me through anything that happens here. That's the most, number one, I know where I'm going, and number two, he'll bring me through all of this, and he will shower goodness on me in spite of the loss I've been through. And there'll be more losses ahead of family members, you know? And so that's what we experience that in this life. So when I'll relate this to the legal field, when you're trying to get in, is that God's will for your life? The only way I believe, it's a personal belief, that you find out is by stepping into it and being in the area of law that you're supposed to be in. And you only find that out by doing it. I didn't know if this was for me or not 34 years ago. I thought, what have I got to lose by trying to get in? I had no money for school, and there were no certificate programs at that time. But there was schooling for sure. And the problem was the director of the school had never worked in a law firm a day in the life. So I thought, how is there any practical real world experience there? And then I heard some negative feedback. People went through that course of, you know, anyway, and graduated. It's just that, was that going to help me land a job? The school itself was not helping people to give them contacts or anything like that. They were left on their own. And that to me is ridiculous. The school should have a ton of contacts and be helping students land jobs. So you're left on your own for the most part, and that's why I do what I do, to help you understand what it takes to get in. So God will take loss that you've been through, the hardships you've been through, and you'll find yourself later on where things are happening that you never expected, and I mean good things, and that you land that first job, and you find out that, oh my gosh, there's a lot I still need to learn. And then you're learning like crazy, and you're taking notes. You know, I always tell you to do that. And you're building your career, and you can see that you're doing that. That's what you always have to tell yourself. And then you can move into a higher paid position. It's really interesting. If you put that effort in, You have to step out and put that effort in. You know, sitting on the couch or wishing that it was so, you still have to put the effort in to do that, okay? So while there were seasons of doubt even in Job's mind, and even in my mind over the last couple years, where last summer at this time it was totally horrendous with trying to, I was wondering, how do I sell my daughter's property? It was loaded with water damage, and that just happened. I think the last month that the tenants were in the house, they moved out on April 30th of last year, and they were reporting this to the property management company. And the property management company wasn't assisting in solving this, which is ridiculous. What are they there for, and what are they being paid for? And so that was the craziness of last year, and waiting. And I felt God saying, you can't give it to me and I'll take care of it. And there was no way I could take care of it. So when it comes to landing a job in the legal field, you have to do all that you can to prepare. Not just, you might be in a 2-year degree program or certificate program, or you can't afford any of that. I want you to make sure that you're going to my website, paralegalcoffeetalk.com, and go to the Paralegal Regulations tab and download that PDF. Now, that's an old document from a paralegal national association, and they're not really great in updating that. And so look at, if your state is on there, understand what your state regulations say. Now, for California, I can tell you that I don't live in California, but California changed their regulations where you either have to have a 2-year degree or a certificate, and that's up to you to investigate that if you're in that state. Any other state, look it up. Paralegal regulations for the state of, and put that in the search bar on Google, and really research that, because normally it'll say you have to have a 2-year degree or a certificate or a high school diploma, or it may say, you have to have worked for 2 years or 5 years or 3 years for an attorney and doing paralegal work for that number of years in order to be called a paralegal, okay? But in most of the other 49 states, they're not trying to keep you out of that by saying you have to have a certificate or a degree, okay? Now, you can choose to go that route. Definitely, you can choose to get your 2-year degree or a certificate, okay? So obviously there's nothing wrong with that. But the attorney expects you to know how to help them. I don't mean that you are vastly experienced. They understand that. If they're hiring you, they know you're a beginner, but they don't run a school there, you understand? So you have to know, how can I help this attorney on day one? And when you go on the interview, what do you know how to do? How would you explain that? I don't mean I have a strong work ethic and I'm detail oriented and I did this in my other job and I'm great with clients. I don't mean that. They expect that. It is, how are you going to help them in the work that they do every day? They do not run a school there. Even if they say they're going to provide training, don't rely on that, please. That's honestly being naive when you do that. Don't rely on it. Students have come back to me. My students have come back to me to say that they could go ask a paralegal questions for about 2 weeks, but then the paralegal was getting annoyed, of course, because they have a whole caseload they have, and they're under the gun to get that work done. They can't be teachers, okay? So the more you know before you go in regarding how are you going to help that attorney in that area of law, the more powerful more accomplished you will feel, and the more pulled together you will feel, and And when you can explain a couple of those things that you know how to do to the hiring attorney, it will be awesome. Okay, it's not that you have to know everything before you go in, you can't. So, and the attorney knows that. So there are better days ahead for you. Do not doubt that. It's coming. But you, when regarding the legal field, you have to put that effort in. All right. So that is it for today. Have a great day. Please feel free to leave comments. Go to the website, paralegalcoffeetalk.com, and go look under every tab. Look under Accelerator. I'll be launching that membership in about 2.5 weeks, in mid to the third week of September. And then stay tuned for that. I have not opened that officially for over 2 years. Officially about 2 years. So, and it might have been January of 2022, over 2.5 years. So gonna open that up. Look under every tab. Go to the Legal Break-In book tab. Look at that. Read the table of contents. Okay, that book is for pre-entry into the paralegal field, not total newbies, but pre-entry. Okay, you're looking at the career for the first time. That's who that book is for. Okay, it gives you insight into, you'll see in the table of contents, but go to paralegalcoffeetalk.com and join the hub. It's free. And there are videos in the hub. It'll say Paralegal Resource Hub on the website under one of the tabs. That hub is free to join. And there are several videos there, and there are questions you can answer or not. There's no pressure. And that is it. Okay, so have a great day, and thank you again for being here, and I will see you. Now I'm going live over on TikTok under my name, Leslie Sansone Williams. I'm going to go live on Instagram under Paralegal Coffee Talk. Okay, so if you want to come over there, please feel free, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Bye.